Olá, minhas amigas, meus amigos, sejam muito bem-vindos para mais uma live. Hoje temos uma presença ilustre, Dr. Chip Whitney, médico americano. Dr. Chip Whitney, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you much. Yeah, I'm Dr. Chip Whitney, and we're going to be talking about methods that we can prevent and reverse cognitive decline. So I've been doing this for about 7-8 years now, and it's a very exciting opportunity to, yes, reverse, but mostly prevent on really, I believe cognitive decline, Alzheimer's disease is reversible. And but more importantly, I think it's optional, meaning you don't have to have it if you implement the strategies at the right time.
Então, pessoal, eu tenho umas perguntas para ele aqui. Vou fazer em inglês, porque o Dr. Chip ainda não aprendeu português, mas ele vai aprender, nós vamos ensiná-lo. Mas a gente vai aos pouquinhos aqui, a gente vai alternar entre os dois idiomas, ok? Então, temos aqui presente também a doutora Poliana Castro, excelente neurologista aqui, trabalha em São Paulo, doutor Rodrigo 25, excelente dentista biológico, grande amigo, e nós vamos aqui trocar essa figurinha entre nós quatro, aqui depois de fazer as perguntas ao doutor Chip. Então, eu e a doutora Poliana Castro fazemos o protocolo RECODE aqui no Brasil, nós somos pioneiros nesse protocolo, e o doutor Chip, ele também é ainda mais pioneiro que nós, porque ele começou um pouco antes. Eu estou fazendo, acho que uns 6 anos o protocolo, e o Dr. Chip já está fazendo uns 8 anos, como ele disse. Bem, vamos lá, vou fazer as perguntas para ele. Dr. Whitney, you are a family physician, not quite a dentist, yet you have become one of the leading experts on the connection between oral health and systemic diseases. How did this interest begin, and why did you decide to focus on this area?
It literally fell in my lap about 13 years ago. So I've been doing a heart attack and stroke prevention program in my practice since 2010. And it's been gangbusters successful. So when I heard about RECODE, I knew it was going to be successful because it was the same approach. So about 2 years into the program, in America, there's the American Academy of Periodontology and the American Heart Association. They made a consensus statement saying that there's a level A scientific evidence of the connection between the mouth and the heart. It confused everybody. They thought, I had a friend of mine who's a wealth planner, very smart guy. He texted me in the morning and said, hey, you don't have to talk about the mouth anymore. There's no connection. And I read the statement, and it was the semantics, the wording that confused everybody. So I quickly sent off a newsletter explaining what was wrong with this statement, because I've been preaching the gospel of oral health for about 2 years at that point, and how important it was. And physicians don't do that. That's just not that. So the patients were kind of thought I was odd for talking anyway, but now they really thought I was odd. So I sent out an email or a newsletter to everybody and explaining that, yes, there's a big connection between the mouth and the heart. A dentist friend of mine tweeted it out, and a publicist from the Dentistry Today, one of the leading journals in America on dentistry, and it ended up being an editorial on that. So it made like basically page 10 of this very prominent periodical, and it put me on. And then dentists who understood that this was important, it kind of put me on the radar screen, and I ended up doing a bunch of speaking for several years about the heart mouth connection. So it was just because I felt it was important. And it was so much fun watching dentists who did not understand that you're not just working on the mouth, you're working on the entire body, that what happens in the mouth affects cancer, heart disease, dementia, diabetes, arthritis, a lot of different things. And it was just so nice and fun watching the eyes get wide and excited, say, wow, I'm a health professional. So my role has been trying to inspire health professions around America and now Brazil to assume your role at the table of the integrated healthcare model, because it's really important. It's super one. And then once I learned all the brain connection, it's actually as or more important than the heart.
Congratulations for your pioneers in this area. Here in Brazil, also, we have this scenario where we have to talk to many professionals about this relation between oral health and systemic health. Dr. Rodrigo has been a pioneer also in this area in Brazil, and also I try to help as much as often. Pessoal, então o Dr. Chip está falando que ele entrou quase que por acaso nessa questão da saúde boca e saúde sistêmica. Ele trabalhava na área de cardiologia e ele começou a estudar essa relação entre boca e saúde sistêmica, baseado em estudos conjuntos que tinha da Sociedade de Cardiologia com a Sociedade de Dentistas, e ele se tornou, então, quase que sem querer, aí uma das principais vozes a respeito disso. Could you explain to our audience what the RECODE protocol by Dr. Dale Bredesen is and how it differs from conventional approaches to Alzheimer's and cognitive decline?
Certainly. So traditional approach to Alzheimer's, and Alzheimer's is the most serious version of it. And this program will help with all types of dementia to more or less extent. Typical reactive medicine finds Alzheimer's, and it's so sad. I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I have some of the top medical institutions in the world here in Philadelphia. And it's very sad that once they're very good at making the diagnosis, and then they basically say, get your affairs in order, that you're going to get worse and it's not going to get better and there's no hope. So Alzheimer's patients have historically not had any hope whatsoever. And so they might put them on a drug. There's two drugs, Aricept and Namenda, that have been around for years. They don't do anything but slow the decline 15, 20% at best. They don't get anything better. And now they've got these more expensive medications that here in the United States are like $50,000 to $60,000 per year. And it still doesn't do any better than the old medications did, and people are dying from it and they're getting brain bleeds from it. So it doesn't do anything, and there's reasons that it actually might make the situation worse in some people. So what the RECODE approach is Dr. Dale Bredesen, you mentioned, he's a neurologist from UCLA, and he set out his career to cure Alzheimer's disease. And he did research for a long time and realized the approach was all wrong. It was upside down. He said, what we need to do is we need to identify what are all the different root causes of Alzheimer's disease. So basically he set out in his research for a few years on finding what those root causes of disease are. And in his book, his original book that he published in 2017, he talked about 36 holes in the roof, where in a leaky roof, you can't fix the roof by patching just one hole. You've got to patch all the different holes. So what we do is and now he's up to about 40 or 50, maybe more root causes of it. We identify, so in the protocol, we identify as many of those root causes as we can. And for dentists, they include gum bacteria, mercury amalgams that are toxic to the brain, and sleep apnea. So those are kind of the three areas within the protocol that the dentist can have a big influence on. And you're the specialty that I can't do anything about. I mean, I can do most of the other parts of the protocol. I can't do the dentistry part of the protocol. So we have to have dentists. In fact, dentists can get certified in the methodology also, just to kind of get noted that they know what they're doing with cognitive decline. So what we do is identify as many of those root causes as we can, and then kind of organize all of the information, and then devise a plan to patch as many of those leaky holes in the roof as we can. You can't do everything, but so what I do is I look for those that are the most important, like sleep apnea is really important, and diabetes is very important to get under control. Nutrition is super important. And then I find out how motivated the person is, and then we devise a plan, and then we keep reassessing, and over the course of time, we can kind of work through all the different ones. So it's a very disorganized approach at digging into those root causes.
May I, Chip? I would like to introduce to the people who is watching us the reason of this symposium and the reason you are coming. Okay, I'm going to speak in Portuguese, and I know Dr. Poliana has question to make to you too, and after that I'd like to give to her the opportunity to make the question to you, ok? Pessoal, então eu queria só dizer que o CISI está sendo organizado, né, o Simpósio Internacional de Saúde Integrativa, no dia 13, 14 e 15 de março, que a gente vai ter uma feira especializada nesse tema de memória, saúde cerebral e Alzheimer, onde a gente vai ter essa feira aberta para o público. Quem estiver em São Paulo é muito bem-vindo. Vai ser no E-Suite Congonhas, em frente ao aeroporto de Congonhas. A feira vai ter mais de 25 expositores, a gente está contando com a participação de 350 a 500 pessoas. Pessoal que tiver interesse em participar, toda a grade foi montada de acordo com o RECODE, então, desde a parte emocional, da parte nutricional, odontológica, farmacêutica, desparasitação, desintoxicação, saturação, apneia, ronco, novas tecnologias, fotobiomodulação. Então, a gente vai ter de uma forma muito abrangente e a gente está contando aí com a presença de vocês. Quem estiver assistindo essa live, a gente está convidando, está dando um voucher, depois a gente vai colocar aqui, no valor de 50%, tanto para presencial, como também para online. Então, esse congresso, quem estiver assistindo, né, ou pode pedir para a gente aqui na minha mídia DR, Rodrigo 25, ou no Simpósio Internacional de Saúde Integrativa, coloca eu quero, coloca 50%, que a gente manda o voucher para vocês. A equipe entra em contato com vocês. Então, a grande razão desse movimento todo, com mais de 40 profissionais da saúde integrativa, mais o professor Chip Whitney, mais Gério Curatola, mais Ana Moreira de Portugal, exatamente para trazer informações sobre Alzheimer, saúde cerebral e memória. Poliana, I would like to make a question to Dr. Chip.
Your microphone is off.
Sorry. I actually have two questions, and I'd like to know.
No, it's not working. Sorry.
Not working?
I hear you. See, I hear her. I'm hearing her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really? I don't.
Yes.
Okay. No? Okay. Actually, I have two questions, and I'd like to know if would it be better to ask one thing at a time?
Go ahead.
Is it better?
You can do both. Go ahead.
Okay. And Dr. Chip Whitney, in first place, it's an honor to be here with one of my professors in the RECODE certifying program. And I'm a neurologist, as Dr. Alain has introduced me. Before I discovered the existence of RECODE program, I was already dedicated to treat people with neurodegenerative diseases. I'm a specialist in Parkinson's disease and other movement disorders, and I have master's degree in cognitive dysfunction in patients with Parkinson's disease. So RECODE was really a gift for life that really has changed tremendously my clinical practice positively. And the first thing I'd like to ask you is, since you have mentioned about how you try to identify which factors, which risk factors must be priorities when you treat each patient, since each patient has his own factors that are the most important to be addressed. I'd like to ask you if in your clinical practice, do you find difficulties that exceed the problem of the lack of engagement that we find in people that are discovering that RECODE exists, since it's a kind of treatment that demands a lot of work from family, from the patient, that most of the times doesn't know that he has some sickness in his mind. And because here in Brazil, we have two most important factors that represent obstacles for patients, in my view, in my clinical practice. One of them is the financial factors, because the treatment has costs, and a lot of measures have to be implemented. And I'd like to besides that, I see the lack of engagement when they see, wow, that's a lot of work that we have to do, and doctor, will it be worth, will I get cured? So they want to know if it will be valid, aligned to their expectations, right? I'd like to know, in your view, in your clinical practice, so what do you think that are the greatest obstacles for clinical practice in the US, in your clinical practice? And if you see other obstacles besides the lack of engagement that I suppose that you find also in your practice. This is the first one.
Sure. So you're absolutely right that so I have two types of patients. I have my internal patients who are having problems, and I have to convince them that there is something to be done. They have that, and a big part is teaching, education. So they have to understand that, yes, there is actually a study published by the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease that it was a pilot study, 25 people, but 84% actually improved. The best, sometimes deadly drug slows the decline by 10 or 15 to 20%. This actually improved 84%. They're in peer review for a second study that they've done on more like 75 to 100 people, where apparently the results are even better. So yes, there's hope, but yes, it's a lot of work. So I will say that I try to treat everybody at the beginning, but I've discovered that if the patient is not internally motivated to do with the work, or they don't have the support around them, because the problem is they can't remember anything. They can't remember what I told them, so I have to write a lot down. And they have to support motivated. The family members, and they have to have the ability to do the work. So they have to eat. The nutrition part isn't get in a light ketosis that allows their BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, to form more, and exercise to do it. They're not going to be successful. So I really pre-screen a lot of people and find out where their motivation is, because it is costly. Like you said, there's costs. It's the testing. I mean, a lot of the testing in here is not covered by insurance, and some of it's not cheap, but it's all important. So that is a big barrier. So the big barriers are, I'd say the biggest barrier is patient motivation, because they're 70 something years old. They've eaten the way they have for 70 years. They don't want to change their habits. And some are easy to address, like a couple supplements or some brain games, but others are not so easy. So it's got to be a motivated patient is important, and the money factor is significant too. But those are the major obstacles to do this. And actually also here's the number of us who are actually doing it, because I have to admit, it's very it takes a lot of energy. It's a lot of time, a lot of energy, and it's draining. It kind of drains it's a lot of work because there's a lot of teaching involved with it just to get them to kind of want to do the program, and then within the program they have to understand what they're doing. At least the family members do. So
the diet compliance is very difficult here to us in Brazil. The costs are a big factor, but also maybe even when we give them lots of text to read about the diet, videos, I have lots of videos talking about the keto flex diet, but even then, the compliance is a very big challenge. So do you feel that using coach assistance is a thing that you feel it's very important, or do you have any other kind of approach to this?
Especially if somebody has cognitive decline and they want to reverse it, and there's a saying in the United States, a full court press, like in basketball. You really have to be aggressive and do everything that you can if you're trying to reverse things. Now, if you've got a prevention, you're preventing it, then you've got some time and it doesn't take as much. But yes, everybody has to work with a health coach because it's very difficult to get into ketosis, which is the key to the nutritional part. It involves fasting, exercise, and nutrition to get that accomplished. And that really does take, and there's so many things to be done. The coach can also help them sort out what's most important.
Yes, I have done a test with a CKM, a continuous ketose meter. I have bought it in Europe, and I used it for 14 days, and I felt in my skin how difficult it is to get in ketosis. This is because I have done the diet before, but the monitoring gives you insights that you can't have without monitoring. So do you have this practice to asking for your patients to use the CKM, or they just use the other, like the conventional device that you have to?
Yeah, most of them are doing the finger pricks to
the finger pricks, okay.
Yeah, the finger pricks are the way they're doing it. I know we have a continuous glucose monitor here, but I don't think we have you said you got it in Europe, correct?
Yes, I got from China, a company from China, but I got it in Portugal.
Got it, okay. I don't have that used, but they do need to monitor the ketones to kind of get an idea of if it's working or if it's not working.
I see. Quer fazer uma pergunta, Rodrigo?
Yes, please.
Vamos falar um pouquinho de português também para a plateia acompanhar, porque deve ter muita gente que não está entendendo, né?
Entendo. Tá, eu vou perguntar para o Dr. Chip a importância da odontologia, porque nós temos vivido isso no programa quando a gente trata o paciente do RECODE e a gente entende, né? Mas eu gostaria de saber da opinião dele, o que ele tem visto que é mais importante, que tem tido melhores resultados durante o tratamento odontológico, visto que a gente vê que a literatura mostra que o Alzheimer, assim como uma série de doenças autoimunes e degenerativas, neurodegenerativas, elas estão relacionadas a bactérias, a fatores inflamatórios, a processos de defesa que estão relacionados a fungos, vírus, bactérias que estão ao redor do dente, dentro do dente e dentro do osso. Além disso, a gente também tem restaurações de amálgama dental, metais, corrente galvânica, entre outros fatores, campos que interferem na comunicação com o cérebro e o corpo, e isso tudo acaba gerando, contribuindo com os processos neurodegenerativos, principalmente com o Alzheimer, né? A gente tem a cavitação óssea, que tem milhares de artigos relacionando Alzheimer com
foco dentário, foco infeccioso da cavitação.
Exatamente. A gente tem também o Epstein-Barr vírus, que estão dentro dos canais. A gente tem o mercúrio, a doença periodontal também, que são as bactérias que estão ao redor. A gente encontrou já porfiromonas gingivalis, que estão tudo ao redor. Mas eu queria saber, na opinião do Dr. Chip, eu vou perguntar para ele o que ele acha. Dr. Chip, we know it's very important, the dental treatment, and I'd like to know your opinion. What have you been seeing when you see your patient, and if you send to your dentist partner, or what you've been seeing, you have the best result? Periodontology, root canals, cavitations, amalgam fillings. What do you see? What is your opinion about that? How can the dentist improve the oral health from their patients?
So I'll take it category by category. So sleep apnea, help them get an airway. So we Americans tend to think sleep apnea is a lack of CPAP, but sleep apnea is a lack of oxygen, and a lot of it's just structural. And many patients don't want to use CPAP, and effective oral appliances are what's going to be most helpful with that. And the point I want everybody to recognize on that is that it's not how often they stop breathing, it's their mean oxygen level at night. There was a great study a few years ago that showed of all the parameters of a sleep study, the one that correlated with Alzheimer's disease most was the mean oxygen saturation overnight. And that really means creating an airway while they're sleeping. So that's on that category. And as far as mercury is concerned, the point I like to make is that dentists are taught that the most mercury exposure is when you put the amalgams in and when you take them out, and that's true. So that they're taught, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So if they're not cracked or broken down amalgams, don't mess with it because you're going to have more mercury exposure. But we can do testing that looks at mercury levels, and there's many people who through chewing, they aerosolize mercury. Hot foods, they'll aerosolize the mercury. So we see high levels of inorganic mercury in their blood because of the amalgams, and they're not going to come down unless those amalgams come out. So that's one of the biggest communication needs I have, is explaining to my dentist partners is that I know the filling is not broken, but the mercury levels are high, and to do it as safe as possible. And then with as far as periodontal inflammation and the bacteria, there's a test called MyPeriopath, where it's a saliva test that looks at several pathogenic bacteria in the mouth. And the ones most linked to Alzheimer's are P. gingivalis, T. denticola, and Fusobacterium nucleatum. So they're the ones that have the most science behind the link. So I asked the dental partners to the best of their ability, eliminate those organisms. And that's something easier said than done. And I don't know the best protocols. I'm not sure it's been figured out the best protocols to eliminate those bacteria, because I do know enough to say that, and where I step in and help out is that please take care of your home health needs. Like, you've got to take care of your mouth at home, because within 24 hours, the microbiome start to rebuild in there. So if you don't do your work at home, so I do the best to support my dentist and hygienist partners in saying, use a sonic brush. And then whatever your dentist team is telling you to do, and creating in a healthy environment, and maybe doing what it takes to help kill some of the bacteria in between their visits. So, but those are the kind of ways that can be helped the most, is in those three categories.
Fantastic. Can I just translate? Só para traduzir rapidamente, então o Dr. Chip falou que um dos principais fatores é o airflow, que é a apneia, né? A apneia e o ronco, que são fatores que acabam dessaturando a quantidade de oxigênio no cérebro, e isso pode também ocasionar, assim como também as bactérias que se encontram ao redor do dente, na doença periodontal, também pode ocasionar doença de Alzheimer. Ele falou também da parte de prevenir em casa. Então, a prevenção, a gente também gosta bastante dessa parte, porque prevenir é sempre o melhor remédio, né? E fazer a escovação, a optimização da escovação em casa. Então, Então, o dentista, ele tem que ensinar os pacientes a escovar os dentes, a passar o fio dental duplo e a cuidar dessa parte para que possa estar mantendo a saúde do dente. Só uma coisa que eu queria acrescentar é que os canais, muitas vezes, eles também acabam provocando processos periodontais. Então, aquele restinho que a gente não conseguiu tratar do canal, às vezes acaba causando um processo inflamatório crônico ali, onde causa esse processo periodontal, o Dr. Chip Whitney comentou. Bom, Poliana, queria perguntar alguma coisa?
Yes, I'd like to make another question. O que eu vou perguntar para o Dr. Chip é a respeito do teste que tem nos Estados Unidos para avaliar a microbiota oral, sobre as principais estratégias, ferramentas que ele utiliza em relação a isso, e se a correlação entre osteonecrose e melhora clínica que ele possa observar na prática clínica dele. Dr. Chip, in the US, you have the oral DNA exam that you have mentioned some minutes ago. I'd like to ask you that. In your clinical practice, when you find microbiome alterations and oral microbiome alterations, altered findings in this exam, what are the most valuable tools that you find in your clinical practice to treat these findings? And I'd like to ask you also if you, in your clinical practice, do you find people with cavitational osteonecrosis there in the US, and if you find correlations between treating this cavitational osteonecrosis with your partner dentist, and if you see any improvement in your clinical practice, since it's something correlated to autoimmune damage, and which has great interest for the physiopathology of neurodegenerative disorders, including Alzheimer's disease.
So, as a physician, I'm limited in what I can do. So my tools are the best thing I can do is encourage them to do the home care, like I said before. As far as the cavitations, that I've not, that's kind of beyond my scope of skills. So I'm not sure what the dentists are working with on that, to be honest with you. The other tools I will use it. So that there's a mouth rinses, that topic right there. So I know that there's some thought that a lot of dentists don't like the mouth rinses because there are some negative effects it can have on nitric oxide, and it can have on the microbiome and affect the blood pressure. Fortunately, so it's really in the cardiovascular risk that we're potentially putting them in for mouth rinses. I have the ability to know what their cardiovascular status is because I've been doing that. I do advanced markers on that. So I can know where it's safe, but it's very helpful on reducing. That was actually how I first got involved with dentistry. When I mentioned that I got that article published, I had been watching when all I asked this one marker, this cardiovascular marker called LPPLA2. Nothing, diet, exercise, nutrition, drugs weren't helping it until they took care of their mouth. And it was their hygienist, it was a sonic brush, and it was Listerine. So it was plummeting this cardiovascular. So if I have a cardiovascular, so one of the categories that contributes to Alzheimer's is artery disease, the pipes that supply the brain, that they're the ones I will definitely suggest to the mouth rinses to, recognizing that you have to use it cautiously. And then probiotics, oral probiotics, I'll use that also. That's something I can recommend also, but it's why I do need dental partners, because a lot of the needs they have, like what you're talking about, is beyond my abilities. And I'm not really getting involved with that.
What do you think about the coconut oil pooling to microbiome, oral microbiome? Coconut oil coconut oil pulling for the
oil
microbiome.
Talking to dentists about that topic, oil pulling, that they really love it and it works really good and it's a very natural way to help out with the microbiome. My understanding is it takes a lot of commitment. They have to kind of keep the oils in their mouth for a long time, and it's patient compliance can be difficult with that. But my understanding and everything I've heard and read about it, it's very good if the patient can commit to do it.
So do you feel that mouth rinses with Listerine is not so harmful if you select well the patient?
Exactly. You got to be, so it's like I think you said at the beginning, it's everybody's an individual. And if somebody is at high cardiovascular risk, I'll be quick to use them because I know that it helps these biomarkers. And if somebody has high blood pressure or they've got nitric oxide problems, then you have to not use that as much. So you have to be very selective in what you do.
Fantastic.
May I? Queria só dar uma traduzida, Alan, sobre
Traduza. Eu te ajudo aí também, vai lá.
Então, nessa parte das captações ósseas, eu queria só dizer que tem um grande professor alemão, professor Lechner, que ele tem feito um trabalho incrível e tem verificado dentro das captações ósseas que tem o CCL5, que é um soldado nosso que ele acaba crescendo para poder marcar ali onde acabam ficando uma série de terroristas de patógenos dentro do osso, que não foi cicatrizado de forma correta, e ele acaba aumentando. E ele está relacionado a mais de 2.000 artigos relacionando ao Alzheimer, mais de 9.500 artigos à alergia, 9.410 artigos referentes a câncer e revisões. Então, a cavitação óssea realmente tem sido muito estudada e a gente tem tido muito sucesso, principalmente porque a gente tira aquele fator inflamatório, que quando ele sai, ele tira o processo de defesa do nosso corpo, que faz com que a gente melhore toda a parte de microcirculação, micronutrição e também a parte de limpeza do nosso cérebro, do nosso sistema. Eu queria também só acrescentar que o Dr. Alan Dutra tem um vídeo recente agora falando sobre o pulling, falando da importância. Ele deu uma aula para dentistas, para médicos, para nutricionistas. Queria te dar os parabéns, doutor Alan, que foi espanhol, porque também já está treinando para o...
Não, eu fiz em português também. Esse vídeo eu fiz em português também. Eu acho que vai sair essa semana.
Que ótimo. Mas vale a pena assistir, que vai trazer informações muito importantes sobre a seleção de bactérias, sobre a desbiose intestinal, que se inicia pela boca, né? Alan, você quer perguntar para o doutor?
Sim. Posso fazer as perguntas, sim. Ele já falou das bactérias, né, do Porphyromonas gingivalis, do T. denticola, né, isso ele já falou. Essa pergunta é boa para complementar esse assunto, né? Engraçado que você fez a mesma pergunta que eu poderia ter feito, estava exatamente na sequência, Rodrigo. Impressionante, tá? Estamos alinhados aqui, viu? Dr. Chip, how does oral inflammation affect the blood-brain barrier and allow toxins to enter the brain?
That's a big question. Inflammation is important, and the blood-brain barrier is meant to be high functioning. And unfortunately, the other chronic inflammation triggers like the mouth and leaky gut syndrome and high visceral fat, it damages the blood-brain barrier and allows, so it tends to be what we call a snowball effect, where when you got more inflammation, it allows more things to cross into the blood-brain barrier. And the treatment of improving the blood-brain barrier is to reduce the systemic inflammation.
All right. Quer falar, Rodrigo? Pode falar.
Não. Fica à vontade.
Não, eu achei que você ia complementar aí, fazer a tradução.
Eu posso. Eu queria dizer que todo processo inflamatório crônico sinaliza através de uma citocina, né, que estamos tendo guerra. E toda vez que a gente tem guerra, o corpo assume um processo de defesa. E esse processo de defesa é que acaba levando a uma série de degenerações, uma dificuldade de chegar a alimentos, uma dificuldade de fazer a limpeza, de levar oxigênio. Então, isso tudo acaba piorando e contribuindo para os processos de doenças neurodegenerativas, autoimunes, etc. A microcirculação.
Eu vou fazer uma pergunta para ele, complementar o que ele falou sobre os amálgamas, tudo bem? Então, a pergunta que eu ia fazer é sobre quando tirar o amálgama e quando não tirar. Pelo que entendi, ele tem uma conduta seletiva em relação a isso, né? Então, eu achei muito interessante, eu queria saber detalhes. Dr. Chip, when you talked about amalgam removal, you mentioned that you analyze each case, if I understood correctly, and some people you recommend amalgam removal and others you don't recommend. So did I understand correct?
Yeah, based on the testing results on how high their blood mercury levels are.
So do you measure only on the blood, or do you do the tri test, the blood, the urine, and also
in the hair? Yeah. I do the tri test. So the decision of whether or not to have them removed is mainly on the blood test and what the blood levels are. The urine and the hair tests really show us additionally how well they're detoxifying, because that's where we tend to find the mercury. So the higher the hair and the blood levels, whether it's methyl mercury or inorganic amalgam mercury, that it'll tell us how well they are. Like oftentimes the kidneys they've been so inundated with all toxins, including mercury, that they're not doing a good job eliminating the mercury. So that's going to increase the blood level if they can't get rid of it. So it's an equilibrium. So the hair, that's the value of the tri test you mentioned. It's a company called Quicksilver, where it not only gives us the blood levels at a very sensitive level, it also tells how well they're eliminating it. And that's more for our world in terms of, do we need to support them on detoxification?
So in a hypothetical, só para complementar, Rodrigo, desculpa. In a hypothetical case, and the blood mercury is normal and has mercury on the hair and also urine, what is your decision about the amalgam removal?
Are you saying so the blood level is okay?
Yes.
And it's showing up in the hair and the urine?
Yes.
That's a good, now that's actually a good situation. That means that they're eliminating it enough that it's not building up in the blood. So the more common is the opposite, where it's high in the blood and it's not showing up well in the urine and the hair. So if it's showing it, that may be one of the reasons it's low, is that they are detoxifying well.
So in this case, you decide to not remove the amalgam?
Right. Yeah. Dr. Chris Shade, he's the chemist who kind of helped put together the protocol for amalgams, and we, in dementia patients or dementia risk patients, we prefer not to have higher than the 50th percentile level of mercury. Other patients we might accept a little higher amount, but we don't want any more than 50%. So that's what our target is to keep the mercury levels at least average, and if not better. And so if it's below 50th percentile, then it doesn't necessarily mean to have the amalgams removed unless they're broken.
I see. Rodrigo, assumir, Rodrigo. Pode assumir.
O que eu vejo é o seguinte, quando você tem um amálgama dental e não tem ele sinalizado na urina ou no sangue nesse momento, não significa que em um momento onde o seu fígado não está conseguindo filtrar, você não vai ter. Então, na minha opinião, a remoção do amálgama dental, principalmente para doenças neurodegenerativas, né, é sempre importante a gente remover. Mas eu queria só trocar um pouquinho de assunto aqui agora, e para quem entrou agora, falar que essa live está sendo exatamente para a gente poder divulgar o Simpósio Internacional de Saúde Integrativa, que vai acontecer dia 13, 14 e 15 de março, no E-Suites, no hotel, em frente ao aeroporto de Congonhas, que vai ter uma feira de exposição com técnicas, materiais, de mais de 25 expositores, exatamente sobre saúde cerebral, memória e Alzheimer. e ela é aberta e você pode participar gratuitamente. Agora, para quem quiser participar do evento, tanto online como também presencial, a gente vai ter aqui um voucher de 50% para que você possa fazer. Então, a gente vai colocar o voucher aqui. Em todo caso, também pode pedir no CISI, Simpósio Internacional de Saúde Integrativa, ou também na minha mídia DR Rodrigo 25, e só colocar lá 50% que a equipe manda para vocês. Eu queria perguntar para a doutora Poliana se ela poderia estar comentando com a gente qual o assunto que ela vai falar durante o CISI. Pode ser em inglês ou português, como você preferir.
O microfone está desligado, Poliana. Microfone.
Vou falar de forma sucinta para poder falar um pouquinho em português e a maior parte do tempo em inglês. A minha palestra no CISI vai ser sobre os estudos do protocolo RECODE publicados, e especialmente sobre o último estudo desenvolvido, cujo preprint foi disponibilizado online em 30 de dezembro de 2025 e será publicado agora em 2026, trazendo resultados arrebatadores a respeito da eficácia do protocolo RECODE. In the next symposium, International Symposium on Integrative Health in March, I'm going to talk about the studies, the RECODE studies that are publicated to the moment, and especially about the Avantea study that started in 2023 and has ended in 2025. Its preprint was published online last December, and after peer review, it's going to be published this year. And this study has showed really important findings. I guess it's the most important study published that's going to be published about RECODE program to the moment, because it brings fantastic results about the efficiency of the program, of the treatment, and is randomized controlled trial. So it's on clinicaltrials.gov. So it's a really important study that we really have to spread about it on symposiums and congresses, so and in social media, so people can know about the efficiency of RECODE protocol when you have, especially when you have ideal conditions of implementing this program, right? Tem tempo para fazer mais uma última pergunta para ele?
Não, tempo, não sei o tempo dele, né? Não sei o que o Rodrigo combinou com o Dr. Chip. Mas faça aí, faça assim.
May I ask another question? Sure. Oh, thank you.
É uma hora, temos mais 12 minutos. Okay. Quiser também já aproveitar para mandar uma mensagem pessoal, depois que eu vi o Alan também, sobre o que ele vai apresentar nesse nosso querido simpósio.
Ok. Bom, então, vou fazer uma pergunta sobre a experiência do Dr. Chip Whitney com o protocolo RECODE em outras doenças neurodegenerativas, como a doença de Parkinson, esclerose lateral amiotrófica, porque na minha prática clínica eu encontro benefício nesses pacientes também, fazendo uma abordagem individualizada com medicina de precisão. E gostaria de agradecer ao Rodrigo pelo convite para participar dessa live, que para mim teve uma importância enorme, né? Dr. Chip Whitney, I'd like to ask you about your experience concerning the treating patients with RECODE protocol, patients that have other neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease or other neurodegenerative disease, since in my clinical practice, I see people improving when I use integrative approach with precision medicine, I see people with Parkinson's disease holding on the progression of the disease, people with ALS, improving strength, for example, even when treating oral palsy. So I'd like to ask you to share your experience. Do you have experience with other patients treating other patients with other neurodegenerative diseases with RECODE protocol?
Not extensive, but yes, you're right. And Dr. Bredesen had a very nice lecture on Parkinson's, and where there's a lot of overlap between the two, the neurodegenerative diseases. And I agree that ALS will probably benefit at least slowing the progression. But but he believes on the part that, so the different categories that contribute to Alzheimer's are inflammation, glucose control problems, nutrient hormone deficiencies, toxicities, cardiovascular, and trauma. So Dr. Bredesen believes that the toxicities, whereas it's probably 50% to 2/3 of Alzheimer's patients, that's a big contributor. He thinks everybody with Parkinson's has a toxicity. So his instructions to us are go on a hunt for toxicities. If you've got a Parkinson's patient, catch them as early as you can and look for all the potential toxins that are affecting them and try to detoxify. And then growing the new cells are going to be, because one general concept of RECODE is identify the dementigens, those things that are going to damage the brain. They produce inflammation, and then inflammation will kill the cells. So we first have to get rid of the dementigens, then usually toxins or glycemic products, and then we can work on the inflammation and building up new brain cells with things like oxygen therapy and photobiomodulation of the brain and the nutrients. So, but as far as Parkinson's and probably ALS, ALS is a really difficult one. So I'm not sure. I'm happy to hear you've seen some improved muscle strength with ALS, because I've not had any experience on that one. But with Parkinson's, my effort with Parkinson's is to implement the RECODE protocol, because there's nothing that I'm aware of that's even close to that. And Parkinson's is near and dear to both of one of my big interests in RECODE at the beginning was both of my parents died of Parkinson's disease. So I don't want to have that. So I'm in a pre-PD, prevent Parkinson's disease protocol for me. And so I'm like you, I'm doing the RECODE protocol for myself, because I fully believe that it's going to potentially prevent all neurodegenerative disease.
Have you had any experience with frontal dementia?
Oh, frontotemporal dementia?
Yes.
That's a really tough one. One patient did have frontotemporal dementia. It happens a lot younger. It's more aggressive. And I've not heard Dr. Bredesen talk specifically about that one, other than it's very difficult on that one, I'm never going to be pessimistic. I'm not going to be saying it's not going to do anything. Certainly it's going to help. And if anything, slow the progression, but I don't think it's nearly as successful as the Alzheimer's type dementia.
I see.
Yeah.
Bem, Rodrigo, vamos preparar já para, né?
Eu queria só que você falasse o que você vai... Chip, doutor, I'm going to ask to Alan Dutra to tell the people what he's going to talk about in our symposium, okay? He's going to tell us in Portuguese, right?
Okay.
Tá bom?
Então,
Depois eu vou para despedir.
Okay.
You want me to say it first and then?
Yes, if you'd like to tell us first, it's going to be our pleasure. Please.
Yeah, I mean, the overview is going to be kind of giving some of the statistics on Alzheimer's disease and how devastating it is, but that we have hope. I mean, there really is hope, and that's really the thing I want everybody to walk away with, that reversal and most significantly prevention, there's hope. And I want to give an overview of the workup and the testing that's done in the RECODE protocol, and then an overview of the Bredesen 7 that we call it. Those are the lifestyle improvements that support patients. So we take those results and then we figure out what in those lifestyles need to be done to improve their cognitive decline. And the categories are diet, exercise, sleep, stress, supplements, brain activity, and then focus supplementation. So those are the 7 categories, and I'll walk through each one of those 7 categories.
Perfeito.
Alan, por favor.
Então, a minha palestra vai ser uma palestra geral também, bem parecida com o Dr. Chip, só que eu vou focar em debulhar aí os tipos de Alzheimer, né? Os 6 tipos que nós temos da doença. Então, nós vamos falar sobre isso, e eu acho que eu vou entrar até um pouquinho no assunto da poliana, porque lá em Portugal eu falei um pouquinho do Ivantea, né? Mas naquele momento que eu estava lá, ainda não tinha publicado, estava em vias de ser publicado. Mas aí então, vou ter que fazer um ajuste na palestra, mas posso tocar por alto aí no estudo do Ivantea. Mas a palestra é basicamente isso, falar quais são os subtipos de Alzheimer, né? E detalhar para a plateia, para eles entenderem que é uma doença multifatorial, e que se você tapar buraco suficiente nesse telhado, você consegue ter a reversão da doença.
Muito obrigado. Poliana, eu estou sem o seu áudio, tá? Então, quando terminar, depois eu volto para me despedir.
Bom, então, agora a gente já vai para o fechamento, né, Rodrigo? A gente vai fechá-la, hein, a live?
Sim, vamos.
Okay. Então, gostaria de agradecer pelo convite, acho que foi extremamente importante estarmos juntos aqui nessa noite para nos reunirmos e falarmos sobre uma paixão em comum, que é o protocolo RECODE, e sobre o simpósio internacional que está prestes a acontecer, onde a gente vai divulgar sobre o RECODE juntos, né? Dr. Chip Whitney, I'm really grateful for being here this night with you all, and talking about our passion, which is our passion in common, which is RECODE protocol, and about the next integrative symposium, that international symposium that is going to take place here in Brazil, in São Paulo, and in which in this event we are going to be together talking about RECODE, spreading news about RECODE. It was really a great pleasure for me to be here with you and to share a bit of your experience with us. Thank you so much for being here, and looking forward to meet you personally in the symposium in March. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to meeting everyone too, and just a whole new world of people who understand that what we are all able to do. So yeah, I appreciate being here also. This has been wonderful.
I'd like to thank you very much for your time, for your kindness to be here with us. Eu também queria agradecer a Poliana, o Alan Dutra, que são 2 ícones da saúde integrativa, por estar colaborando de uma forma tão próxima aqui conosco na organização desse evento. São 2 grandes amigos que não tenho como agradecer o apoio nessa nossa missão de trazer informação, né, para as pessoas que sentem que estão entrando naquele declínio, assim como também aquelas que já têm entes queridos que têm Alzheimer ou que estão com problemas de memória. Então, eu tenho certeza que como missão, né, que a gente traz como propósito, queria agradecer muito vocês e convidar mais uma vez a participarem do CISI, Simpósio Internacional de Saúde Integrativa, 13, 14 e 15 de março, no Hotel E Suites. E só pesquisar nas nossas mídias, tem um monte de informações. Alan, muita gratidão aí por coordenar tudo. Doutora Poliana, muita gratidão. Chip, see you very soon here in Brazil. I hope you had the best time on your vacations. We'll do the best to Dr. Chip Whitney is going to Florianópolis after the event. You're going to know the wonderful beaches in Florianópolis.
During our very cold winter, we are having a terrible winter, so very much looking forward to it.
Ok. Muito obrigado a todos que participaram. Se por acaso puderem colaborar e marcar as pessoas que vocês acham que possa ter interesse nessa live, eu tenho certeza que tem um monte de informações aqui que vai poder fazer diferença na vida delas e também dos seus familiares. Tendo qualquer tipo de problema, 2 grandes profissionais aqui, doutora Alan, doutora Poliana, podem contar com eles, assim como também pode contar comigo na parte de odontologia, se tiverem precisando. Muito obrigado a vocês todos. Fiquem com Deus. God bless you.
God bless
Obrigada,
us all.
Lain, Rodrigo. Thank you, Dr.
Tchau,
Chip.
tchau.
Obrigada.
Thank you, Dr. Chip, for your kindness.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you all.